Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode here in NHL 23. So in last episode, we had some draft steals, and we also had a pretty successful re-sign stage because we didn't really have to re-sign anybody too huge, and we're up here in another free agency period. Looking to maybe bolster a roster a tiny little bit, but not too much because we do have a lot of young guys in the system who are going to be jumping up this year, but this team is looking pretty exciting for the upcoming season. I am a little concerned about our trade we made last year for School, though, because the guy is kind of dropping off a little bit and he's still making a lot of money. So I might have to move him in next year's draft depending on the cap situation. So we'll see what that ends up entailing. Just basically because Kabanov's like a pending UFA, and obviously he's going to be kind of expensive, I'd like to say. Actually not too bad. But we're probably going to end up having to bring him back next offseason, so I think moving School at the draft next year might make sense depending on how he does this year. However, we are actually going to be also probably making a trade this offseason to hopefully make our roster a little bit better in terms of our top six, because obviously we did lose Connor McDavid in the offseason to retirement, so it's probably best for us to make a move to hopefully make our team just a little bit better again, so that way we have a better chance at winning the Stanley Cup this season. So anyways, before I get into some free agent signings and potentially making a pretty good trade, I do have one comment to go over, and that is from Michael Dost, who says, Marsh was a very intriguing pick at goalie. I'll be very interested to see how his numbers look 3 seasons from now, and I agree. He was a low starter, and I have not seen a lot of low starters in franchise mode before, at least out of the draft. Like some of them you see drop from medium starter to low starter, but we drafted Marsh, and you can see he's a 61 at 17. He's as good as this medium elite goaltender, but 2 years younger, which is interesting. Obviously, we do have a lot of goalie prospects, but yeah, it should be interesting to see how Marsh develops. He was a 4th round pick of us, and he's pretty balanced, so maybe he'll become a starting goaltender. Maybe he'll be more of a backup goaltender. It's really tough to tell at this stage, but very excited to see what he does once he gets up here. So that was the only comments I got. One thing I did forget about doing last episode was signing an unsigned guy, that being actually both these guys. Yeah, Sven Gustafsson needs to be signed for the AHL because this guy is AHL ready. And also same with Tkachuk, a young low elite defenseman. He's also ready. So I'm going to sign both those guys up so the AHL team's even more bolstered this season. And the other guys will be unsigned still. Even though Hutton technically is also AHL ready, he is not AHL eligible because he was a QMJHL player. But we are getting some pretty good growth from some of our prospects, which is huge for us, especially in terms of like the defensive prospects. For like, if we go in the system, you can see like Kamachi's a 73 at 23. He might end up making it. But you also have like Tkachuk, you have Del Monte, who are both on the same path pretty much. You have also Leonardo Knights, Hutton, who like I just showed is unsigned. But there is a lot of good prospects that are still coming on the defensive core, which is great, especially if we end up losing anybody on this defensive core in the next few years. Even though most of them are signed for a couple of years, we could easily trade some of them away if need be. But anyways, let's get into first our trade that we are going to be making, which should be an exciting trade. It should work, I assume. And the main reason I want to do this is, like I said, I want to bolster our top line a little bit more just because we lost Connor McDavid. So we are going to be going over after this Marsh guy, not March. Yeah. Wait, is it Marsh? No, Marsh is the goaltender I was mentioning. Sanders in Calgary. I was mentioning him at the end of last episode, and I think he's going to be a pretty good fit for this team. He's listed as a first liner. He's an 85 at 26, so he's not as flashy as McDavid, but this guy is an elite passer, and that could be really good for somebody like Asher Vance. So I think having him on our top line would be great. He hasn't also played any time in the playoffs yet because Calgary has not been a good team in this franchise mode, so we're going to try and trade for him. He is signed for 2 years at just under $6 million, and then we'd have to re-sign him if he's actually that good for us. And the player we are going to be at least giving up in this trade is going to be Brigley. The reason I want to get rid of Brigley is because there is younger guys in the system who are jumping up quite faster than I expected. Guys like Martins, for example, should be in the NHL over Brigley. So moving Brigley right now I think makes a lot of sense. Also, Adamski should be technically on the lineup and that type of thing. So I think moving Brigley makes a lot of sense with him being a pending UFA as well. So we'll add Brigley to this deal, and obviously there is still a lot of value coming towards us. So we are going to have to add some other things to this deal, which I have not actually pre-scouted this trade, so we will have to try and find something that works for this deal. There is also some other prospects I could throw in if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to yet. I think, let's go to goalies. So obviously we're not moving Scavello yet. I could easily give them our 3rd round pick for this upcoming season. I don't have any problems with doing that. So that honestly might go through. If not, we could always bump this up to a 2nd rounder or something like that, or give them another 3rd round pick for next year. I have no problems with that whatsoever. So let's see if Brigley in a 3rd will get us Sanders. That's rejected. So let's try to 2/3, and if that doesn't work, we could give him a 2nd rounder for this year. I have no problems with giving up picks because of the fact we do have a lot of young prospects already in our system and on our roster. And also 3rd round picks. Usually you don't get any super good talent in the 3rd round. It's always like 1st or 2nd round, I find, or 6th or 7th round. It's never in like rounds 3 to 5. It's always in like the super late rounds or very early in the draft. So 2/3 in Brigley for Sanders. That is rejected, so I guess we will try the 2nd rounder for this year. And if need be, we could add their 3rd for this year, but I think we should be easily able to get a deal done here with Calgary. Even though they're listed as a buyer, they just have not made the playoffs at all, so they might be looking for a little bit of a change of scenery. So Brigley in a 2nd for Sanders. That is rejected as well. What can we do? We might have to go to the trade finder to see what they want, but we are definitely going to do Brigley in this deal. A 2nd, a 3rd, and Brigley for Sanders. Still rejected, huh? I'll give you guys another 3rd. I don't care about giving up these 2nd and 3rd rounders right now. I honestly don't. Does it hurt us maybe in the long run? Potentially, but with the prospect pool we already have, and with the prospect pool other teams have, we could easily make trades for younger guys eventually down the road too, so... yeah, I think I'm going to try this out. So a 2nd, a 3rd, and Brigley. The value is not too far off. Okay, we are getting close, so it might have to be 2 2nd rounders. Yeah, I think I'm okay with doing 2 2nd rounders. Because I don't feel like those are going to be super high up, because we should be playoff bound regardless. So you're looking at like a mid to late 1st round, or late 2nd rounder for both these years. And we're getting Sanders for 2 years, basically. Yeah, I like that trade, I think. So 2 2nd rounders, Brigley for Sanders. Let me just actually see if I could safety net this a bit. See if I could add like a 4th round pick for back-to-back years as well. So basically we're moving back into draft a couple spots, but we're getting a couple picks in just in case. Maybe we'll find something there, maybe we won't. And that's still rejected. What if I take away 1/4? That's rejected, okay. Apparently they don't really want to give up those picks. What about 2 5th rounders? I'm going to try and find a way to get some picks into this as well. That's still rejected. How about 1 5th round pick? That's rejected, huh? What about 2 6th rounders? Maybe we'll find some low elites in that stages. So that might end up being a really good trade for us if we find some good low elites with those picks. That's rejected. How about 1 6th round pick? You don't like it, apparently. Maybe they want to the 2/3, the 2nd, and something else. Yeah, we might not be able to get any picks into this deal, but let's try. Might as well, since we have all the time in the world. Brigley 2 2nds for Sanders and 2 7ths. No. Okay, so apparently we can't get any picks back. They will take probably the 3rd rounder. If we do the 2 2nds and a 3rd instead of the 2/3 and a 2nd, that should probably get it done. Since that's 2 things they want, and instead of just it being 1 thing they want. So Brigley a 3rd and 2 2nds for Sanders. Values are just a bit low, huh? I'll give you also a 7th round pick into this deal. I honestly don't care about having a 2nd, a 3rd, and actually maybe we'll give them a 4th rounder because we probably won't hit in that 4th round. We'll probably hit in the 7th round, but actually maybe I will do a 7th rounder. Yeah, I'm going to guess that there's not going to be any super good low leads for 7th round, but if there is, we could always take them early. So we're giving them a buttload of picks for Sanders, but I don't really give a crap about these picks at all. There we go, that's accepted. So that is, I'd say, a decent deal. Obviously, we get a lot of picks with Brigley, but we get 2 years of Sanders, and who knows, maybe he's going to be that passer that Vance needs to pick up a lot of goals. And also, if we get Anze Kopitar into this team as our head coach again, Sanders will be apparently a good fit for that top line is what it was saying. So you can see it makes our right wing side a little bit stronger, which is good, considering most of the players on our team that are good are centers, not wingers. So I do like that trade quite a bit. So that's going to be our only trade this offseason, and we do need to sign ourselves still a top 6 defenseman and a depth defenseman. We do have $11 million in cap space, so we do still have a lot of money to sign our RFAs that are still free agents at the moment. Let's sign ourselves a depth defenseman and a top 6, and then we'll sim up to the start of next season and get our team set up for another year here in Chicago. And hopefully we have a good season ahead of us. So obviously we'll probably simulate like halfway through the year. So it might be a little bit of a long episode. We'll see. That guy's an RFA. Let me just go UFAs to make this a bit easier, so we could find guys that we don't have to give up compensation for. 26 years old. The sock is a little bit expensive for my liking. I don't want somebody super expensive for the top 6. I want kind of a guy that's a little bit more on the cheaper side, like Pope. We were looking at him. He looks pretty good, actually. I think Pope would be that perfect guy. He is listed as a top 4, which is kind of weird, but 1 year at 1.7. I'll take it. I will take it. He should easily accept with us, considering we are a very good team. And we just need one depth defenseman. So we'll look down here at what's classified as a depth defenseman. There was that Steen guy. Looks solid. Some weaknesses, but his defensive stats aren't terrible. So I do like that. So we'll also sign this guy to a 1-year deal. He wants actually a 2-way deal, which is nice. So it'll be nice and cheap for our contract situation. So those are going to be the options we sign for defense. Let's begin advancing a few days and see if we get them all in. And then we'll obviously make sure our RFAs sign before the start of the season. And we'll get our lineup set up for another year. Hopefully Kopitar accepts. Yep, Kopitar accepts. Perfect. So Kopitar is back as the head coach. That is good, because obviously I didn't want to lose Kopitar, but it said that we didn't have the budget. So we just brought him back as a free agent coach instead. Glad that he is returning to Chicago for another season, or however many seasons we offered him for. Let's advance to the start of next season and see if any of our RFAs actually start accepting. The only RFA that really matters is Spiller at the moment. The other RFA is an AHL guy, so I'm very excited to see what our team's looking like. So Lorakainen accepts, that's good. See if Spiller accepts before the start of the season, or if I'm going to actually have to offer him a contract, because his asking price is probably dropping, which is good, but I didn't want to sign him super long term, because I know we do have guys in the system that eventually might take his spot. 2 goalie prospects for a guy that's making 8.6. No, thank you. I don't really have the cap space for something like that. I don't really even feel like giving up any of those prospects just yet, but eventually we might have to. Let's go back to the contract situation. We have still just over $11 million. Spiller, what are you wanting for 1 year? $3 million. That's good with me. You do still have a couple of years left of RFA status as well, which is good. So we'll sign him up, and we'll have still like $8 million in cap space if we want to make any moves at the deadline this season. Which, who knows, maybe we will need to. Depends on how this team is in terms of simulation, which I think we should definitely be pretty much on the same path as last year. Obviously, losing McDavid was big, but I think bringing in this young 26-year-old for the top line, it will probably help out that top line quite a bit with offense again, because the passing ability of Sanders is going to be probably very good for somebody like Vance, who's a shoot-first type of player. And yeah, look at that, +5 chemistry on both of the top 2 lines right now. That's with Corrado up there. Do I want to keep Corrado up there? Probably not, considering Recky's should be up there instead. I am going to have School on the right side since he's a shooter, just to see if he could get off some one-time goals. We will move Corrado up to the 3rd line. Damn, yeah, this team's looking pretty solid. Zubers is actually right into the lineup already too, which is kind of a surprise. Patterson and Martin's being scratched. I do not like. Wow, we have way too much depth. Way too much. I could use Patterson as depth. I have no problem with that. He might lose morale. But I do not like scratching Toby Martins at all. I would rather scratch Adamski, but Adamski also is a pretty good player. I might have to honestly scratch Lane Weeks. He's not really developing. He's kind of in the same boat as Patterson. Maybe I'll scratch him for a little bit, or maybe every 10 games we'll switch who's scratched and who isn't. So let's let's do Adamski for the first 21, or not 21 games, 20 games. Then for the next 21 games, we will do Martins and see who does better. And obviously, then we can make a decision that way. As for Patterson, maybe we'll swap him in weeks after 20 games, as I would rather keep the youngster and Zubris in already, because he might be a better power forward than the other two. So I am going to write down on a piece of paper just to remind myself while I'm recording this episode. So game 20, we are going to swap basically Adamski into Martins, just to see who's actually the better fit for that line. And then we are probably also going to swap Patterson for Weeks and see who's better of the two. I might honestly just keep Weeks in the lineup because Weeks has the X factors, but we'll see. Depends on who's actually the better of the two. We might have to trade some of these guys away eventually just to find some actual depth pieces. And then defensively, Pope was a depth defenseman I thought I just brought in, right? Or no, he was the top 6. We do need to call up the depth defenseman we signed, though, to a two-way deal, that being Steen. We'll call him up. Yeah, we're always dealing with so much good prospects on this team. It's actually kind of outrageous. We'll go best lines down there in the minors. Klimchuk, should he be dressed? Not really. Visakis, not really either, so I don't really care about too much about those guys. But AHL's looking pretty good. We'll look at that in a little bit, but let's go to defense here. Readjust the defensive pairings a little bit. The chemistry is not as good as I was expecting. It's just kind of weird. Yeah, that's only one problem, is the defensive core right now, chemistry-wise. I don't want to really put Ovechkin down. That doesn't even make it better even. The only good fit would be moving Len Morris to the top 6, which I guess I'm okay with in that sense. Yeah, this team's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. And then, yeah, like I was saying, we'll keep the rest of this probably the same. +5 on the power play. Let me actually make sure we have the right players on the power play, though. Vance is not on the first unit. See, that's why you check the power play. Why is Asher Vance not on the first unit? That is maybe the most stupidest thing I've ever seen. So we'll take Kabanov off this first unit. And actually, maybe I'll take School off the first unit instead. Yeah, I'll take School off the first unit because School is more of a second-line power play guy. But that is outrageous. The best player on our team is put onto the second power play. Like, why? That's about as dumb as people that said that Connor McDavid wasn't put on the power play by some teams. So we'll take Vance out here, but we'll put School into the second unit. And yep, +5 on both units. That's really good. And we'll take School off this unit like I was doing for the first unit. And we'll put Vance on this one. Vance is miles more important than School is. No offense to Skula, but still. We'll put School on the point on the second 4-on-4. So that power play is set up nicely. Penalty kill does not matter as much. Chemistry looks pretty good. Vance is on the penalty kill, which is great, because he'll get some shorthanded goals likely. There you go. So there's our NHL team. AHL-wise, Gustafsson, who we drafted second round, is already listed as a depth forward. So he might be in the NHL as early as next season. So we do have a lot of guys already on the cusp still. Like him, Ribeiro is maybe getting close. He might honestly just cap out at that overall, though. Lorikainen's pretty much a depth forward. Burish is getting close. We also have McNabb, who's kind of getting close. Hemingway is kind of getting close. It's kind of outrageous how much players we have. And like Kachuk's up to a 75 already, so he might be in the NHL next season. And then Camachi, Del Monte. It's kind of insane how much good stuff we have on the system of this team. We'll do Del Monte and Kachuk since they have a +3, and they're both the youngest prospects down there. Also, look at this. Blackburn and Huey are both NHL ready pretty much too, so one of them might end up being a backup goaltender for us next season, or maybe they'll get called up in the playoffs if any of these goalies don't do their job pretty much. So I really like the spot we're in at the moment with this team. But there is that. And let's get started with the season simulation a little bit. We'll do, like I said, 41 games in, just to see how this team does. I know it's been already a bit of a long episode, but I honestly don't really care if these episodes are super long. because I honestly just want to see how guys like Vance do, because as I say pretty much every season, Vance is probably one of my favorite players I've ever had in a franchise mode. So it's just, I like always to see how good he does in terms of the halfway point of the year, which we should be getting to that point hopefully not too long into this episode, because like I said, I don't want this episode actually being super long, but at the same time I want to obviously see a good chunk of the season so we can kind of make a good decision on what we have to do in terms of the trade deadline and getting our team set up for another playoff run, because we know we're going to be a playoff team. It's just all about how long are we actually going to be a playoff team for. Okay, so let's see how good this team actually does this year, or at least to start off wise. So let's go to game number 20, and then we'll make that lineup change. I think Martins has definitely a better chance to making this team than Adamski does, just because Adamski's much older. And I would probably rather keep Weekson over Patterson, but honestly, we'll have to see who's the better of the two options. Damn, we went 11-6 in the preseason against St. Louis. Well, if that's any indication of anything, we're going to be a really good offensive team this year. But let's go to game 20. So we got 1, 4, 7, 8 there, 9 against Carolina, 10, 11, 14, 17 at the end of this week. So for the Montreal game is when we're going to make that line adjustment. But we should be pretty much dominant early in the season, because we know that Kopitar is a good head coach for his team. And we know that our lineup is set up really solidly as well. And we have the depth in the AHL too. So we might not need to make trades this year. But then again, sometimes you need to actually make trades to win a Stanley Cup, it seems like, in the franchise mode. And other times, you don't really need to make trades to win Stanley Cup. So tough to tell at this stage. Damn, a lot of guys are already getting injured in the AHL. And of course, one of them is Burish, the youngster who's in his first AHL season. So that's not good. Hopefully he's not an injury-prone player. Kind of off to a little bit of a rough start here in the NHL, which is kind of weird, but we're probably going to turn it on all of a sudden, because obviously this team's too good to lose a lot. And it just should be. If we end up being like well below 500 at one point, though, maybe we need to make a coaching change. I don't really know, because why are we off to a 4-7 start with this type of roster? It shouldn't be happening. Should be starting to turn itself around here, though. Watch, we're going to go on a big winning streak. Yep, there it is. Actually, maybe not. It's a really weird start to the year, but maybe that's a good sign for things to come. 10-9-1. Yeah, that's a little bit of a weird start. We are only 1 point out of a wild card spot, so it's not too bad. But Vance is almost a goal a game, 13 goals in 20 games. He's over point per game as well. So must be something defensively oriented. We're going to take Adamski out. He had 7 points in 20 games, but we'll take him out now and give Martins the opportunity now to take over for the next 21 games. And in Weeks actually was getting to play the first 20 games. He only had 1 goal and 1 assist, -7. Yeah, I don't know how long Lane Weeks is going to be with this team either. We'll take him out. We'll put Patterson in. Patterson will get the next 21. We'll see if that helps out anything, but that fourth line seemed to not be doing too well, which is not a great sign. We'll probably keep every other line the exact same, though. Let's keep on going. See if this team could turn it around a little bit, even though we are technically just outside of a playoff spot. We obviously don't want to be playing around 500 the entire season. I mean, if we just barely make the playoffs, maybe we win a Stanley Cup, though, but never know. Okay, let's go to January the 1st, and we should be almost already at game 41 by that stage, because it's a pretty busy month ahead. There's 2 wins in a row, 3 wins. Is this our winning streak now? As Gordon Lowry has been injured with a neck strain. That's not good. That's one of our top DFDs. So, but we are still on a winning streak here. There's their winning streak that we're mentioning. I knew we were going to go on a winning streak eventually, because there's no way you could keep this team quiet for too long. I'm kind of scared to see what School's stats are looking like, because that guy didn't do anything for us last year in the playoffs in terms of goal scoring. So I'm hoping that he lives up a little bit more to that $11 million contract he's getting, or else, like I said, I might have to deal him at the draft. Gordon Lowry's now been injured with a mild concussion. Damn. Poor Lowry. Getting slapped with injuries this month. Yeah, we are doing much better this month. Much, much better. Our only loss was in the shootout, I think. Actually, no, we had one at the beginning of the month. Yeah, that was a much better month for this team. So we had one loss in regulation, only 2 losses in regulation that entire month. After that point, we won a total of 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Then we lost in a shootout. Then we won our next game in the shootout. Then we lost in a shootout again. Then we won again. So 21, 9, and 3. That's a much better record. We are at 33 games, so we got 8 more games to go to get to the halfway point, and then we'll take a look at some player stats and team stats. So 4 games and another 4, so we'll be stopping right here against the Winnipeg Jets. So let's see if we can get some more wins like last month, as Bales has now been injured with a concussion. Let's just go replace player on that. I'm not liking these amount of injuries that we're suffering this year, but we got to fight through adversity if we want to be a Stanley Cup contender sometime, you know? I know we already have 1 Stanley Cup, but I'm not satisfied enough with 1 cup for this team. Okay, there's a loss in regulation, another loss in regulation, so a worse month it seems like so far. Yeah, it's going to be a worse month probably than last month, but that might be okay. There's back-to-back wins, and our last game before we take a look at player stats is also a win. So we're 25, 12, and 4 at January the 17th. Let's see where we are standings-wise. We are currently the 3rd best team in our division. The Dallas Stars are running away with the Central, though, so I don't think we're going to be able to catch them. We might be able to catch them in the second half, who knows, but Dallas off to a really good start this year. The Wild are also doing pretty good. They're only 2 points up on us, though. So, yeah, we're off to a good start this year. It was a little bit of a sluggish start, but then we've obviously found ourselves quite a bit here. So let's take a look at team stats and player stats so far for the year. See who's doing what. So, starting off with our centers, Vance has got 50 points in 41 games, so he's on pace for a 100-point season, which is great to see considering we lost McDavid. Still off to a really good start and might be on his 4th 100-point season in the last 4 years as well, which is really good. Hopefully he continues on that trend. He's also on pace for another 50-goal season. He might end up hitting 60 because we do know he has insane second halves, but obviously last year was a little bit of a disappointing year in terms of goal scoring for him, but he's definitely almost back to his normal self pretty much, where he's going to probably get like 56 or 60 goals, something like that. Reefers has 49 points. He's still doing really well. School is off to an okay start, 34 points in 41 games. Don't really know if it's worth it for his asking price or how much he's making, but he's on pace for like 68 points, so it's okay. Only 11 goals, so he was brought in more as a goal scorer, but he hasn't been that really for this team yet. He's now played like technically a full season with us, and he's only got 26 goals to show for it. So long are his days of that 54 goal season he had in 2033. I hope he has a good playoffs ahead of him. If not, like I said, I might have to trade him away at some point. Kabanov, 33 points, pretty good. He is a pending UFA though this year, so hopefully we could re-sign him in the offseason. Ziska, 18 points. Adamski, 10 points in 27 games. And Martin's had 9 points in 21 games. So I don't know who would be the better one to start the rest of the season. Obviously, I would probably lean towards Martin's because he's younger, but tough to tell at this stage. Tough to tell. Left wing wise, Bale's 22 points in 34 games. He was actually off to a pretty good start before his injury trouble, so that's good to see. Patterson's actually been pretty good this year. Yeah, 13 points in 21 games. Is he pending UFA? He is. That makes sense. So Patterson's having his best season of his career, it seems like, at this stage. Just because he knows that he might get paid some money. Because he never had more than 29 points in a season. And now he's almost on pace for probably something much better than that. At least that's my guess. So there is Rodney Patterson. Right wing wise, Sanders has been really good. Yeah, he's been a good fit for the top line, as I was hoping he would be. 30 assists, only 5 goals, obviously, because he's not a goal scorer, but 30 assists. He's definitely helping out Vance a little bit. Return back to his form, and he's on pace for a 70-point season, which would be a career high. So, yeah, that's a great add, I think, for this team. And he is signed for 1 more year, too. Recchi, 30 points. That's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. He is getting power play time this season. He is also a pending UFA. I didn't remember that. Yeah, we're going to probably have to trade with School and free up some cap space to get these guys back if we want to keep them here longer. Like, Recchi's on pace for his best season since his 68-point season, I think. Corrado, 30 points. Also, he's been really good, and he's also not pending UFA, surprisingly. I thought he was going to be, but He's off to a good start this year. He almost has as much points as he had all last year, but he is getting more power play time, I think. So that might be helping out a little bit. Zuber's 18 points in his rookie season. Weeks only 2 points in those 20 games. If we're going to move out from anybody, it would be probably Lane Weeks or Patterson or something like that, since they're pending UFAs. But I mean, I think Lane Weeks still has RFA status, so that's okay, but I'm not really sold on his performance here. Last year, he was actually pretty good in his rookie year, though, but this year so far, it's maybe because he doesn't have any power play time, actually. Yeah, it probably is. If we get him back into the lineup for the second half of the season, I should probably put him back onto the power play. Defensively, Burnstrom's on pace for 46 points, so I might have overpaid on him. I know some of you guys were saying I probably did, but I really don't care. He's a 90 overall defenseman, and he's also been not as good defensively this year, but that's okay. He's still on pace for like 40 assists, which is nice. So still really do like Burnstrom. Spiller's having an okay year, 15 points plus 9. Ovechkin, 11 points plus 13. Morris, 10 points plus 3. Pope, 9 points plus 4. Lowry, 9 points plus 4. And Steen, as a depth guy, 1 assist and plus 4. So our defensive play hasn't been as good this year, looks like, as prior years. Goaltending-wise, yeah, it's definitely we have not been that good defensively this year. That has been our major problem. Aiden Howden's off to his worst start yet. He has won a Vezina in the last few years. Last year, he was really good in the regular season, not so much in the playoffs, but so far this year, he's got an 896. So maybe something will change in the second half, but that's not a great sign. And then Scavello has barely played, and he's got pretty similar numbers. So goaltending has not been the best so far this year, but that's okay, I guess. Because maybe it'll turn itself on in the playoffs and be reversed of what it has been in the last few years. Because normally it's good in the regular season and bad in the playoffs. Maybe it's going to be bad in the regular season and good in the playoffs. So there is our player stats. Let's go to the entire league as well, just to see what everything's looking like at the halfway point a little bit. So that Jacina guy's off to a good start again, as he was last year. 60 points for him in 43 games. 31 goals already at the stage 2. So that's kind of nuts. Yeah, him and McKenna are doing really good. Goal scoring wise, yeah, Jacina's leading. Then it's Michkov, Persson, Charnquist, and Vance is up there. So Vance might win another Richard this year. Depends on, I guess, the second half of the season for Jacina. And also how Charnquist and whatnot does. Most assists so far out of curiosity is McKenna. Reefers is up there in assists. And probably the other guy we brought in, right? Maybe not. Oh, there he is. With the 30 assists. Let's take a look at still mid-season Selke candidates, even though it's kind of early. I just want to see where people are at the moment. Probably Robichaud. He's got 80 takeaways and 56% on the draw at this point, so more than likely he'd be the Selke candidate this year. Defensively, the best defenseman so far is Hughes. Not a surprise, though. Burnstrom is actually not super low in the defensive point-wise. I think defensemen are just not picking up a lot of points in this franchise mode because most of them are under point per game, except for Quinn Hughes. Goalie-wise, the best goaltender so far is Nico Daws in terms of wins. Best in save percentage, Rokon in Buffalo has been really good with a 924. And goals against-wise, the best goaltender so far in that category has been Liam Steen, and then also, I guess, Rokon. Tulola, that type of thing, but our goaltenders have not been good this year. It might be a high-scoring league this season in a sense. Like, if we look at the best save percentages amongst starters, so let's actually go minimum games to 50 games. Or not 50 games because we're not even at the halfway point. Let's go minimum of 30 games. Most of the guys that are starting goaltenders have below a 915 save percentage. So yeah, it might be just a weird year for goaltenders because even our former goaltender, Easton Donald, has an 896. He's been terrible, though, in terms of winning and whatnot, but best rookie at the halfway point so far is Drouin Delorier in Columbus. He's got 25 points. He is injured, though, currently. So there is all of that. Let's actually take a quick look at our AHL team as well while we're at it. See how good Rockford is doing in terms of players down there. Pretty good. Bursch was injured earlier in the year, but he's almost point per game, or just under point per game. So that's a good sign. Gustafson's now up to a 79, so we do have options if we want to call up guys from the minors instead of using current roster players, but I think it's more better to wait till the next season to make those decisions. Kachuk and Del Monte have been okay as well. Both of them are actually almost NHL ready. Kachuk's already technically listed as a top 6 defenseman, which is kind of scary. And I don't know why it's not showing we have any goaltenders in the system. Oh, minimum 30 games, that's why. Because the AHL has not played that much yet. There we go. So yeah, Huey and Blackburn have been pretty good as well. And both of them are technically NHL goalies almost at this stage. So there is that. We also need to quickly take a look at our team stats. And then I think that's almost going to be it. I will take a look at the trading block briefly, but I don't really know if we need to make any trades. We are currently the 8th best team in the entire NHL. We are scoring 3.76 goals per game, which is 3rd best in the NHL. So we're a great offensive team. In terms of goals against wise, our goaltending stats didn't look super good, but they are around mid-table, which is interesting. So yeah, it might be more of an offensive league or something like that. Power play wise, we are 21.5%, which is currently one of the best. So our power play has been good. And our penalty kill is also been pretty good. It's at 86.2%. Already 6 shorthanded goals as well, which is one of the best in the league. So everything is looking actually pretty good in a sense. Even if our goaltending numbers are a little bit down. It's just an offensive season, I think. Let's take a look at the trading block briefly, and then that'll be it for the episode. See if we could see if there's anything that we actually need to trade for. We don't have a whole lot of cap space, but if you guys think we should be making trades, let me know. But I honestly don't think there's anything I really want to fully address, because if we need be, we could just call up guys from the minors instead. Dylan Cousins on 1 year left. We do have the cap space, but I don't really think he's needed. Prospects that we probably don't need to trade for, because obviously we have a lot already. Lucas Raymond on 2 years, no thank you. Verdino on 1 year as a depth option. Not a bad player, I would say. 17 points this year as a depth, our 4th liner probably. He had a 40-point season last year as a kind of a rookie. Huh. That's not bad. This guy's not terrible as a 28-year-old, but I don't really feel like there's a need for him. He does fit our coaching scheme too, but I don't feel like there's a need really. There's also Bliznak, who signed for 2 years. Does fit our bottom 6. He is low only. He's listed as a second line forward as an 83. Yikes. Well, I wouldn't be playing him as a second liner, and I don't feel like we need him anyways, because we're already trying to balance a few things around. Chinnikov, Lundell, Cam York. Quinn Hughes is on the block, and he's leading the defenseman in points in the NHL. That would be interesting just to bring him in for 1 year, since he has only signed for 1 year. But we'd have to get rid of cap players in order to do so. So somebody on the defensive core would have to go to get somebody like Quinn Hughes. I really don't think it's worth it to bring him in, but who knows? Caulfield is dropping off a lot, but is he still doing good? Yes, he's still doing good, but he's definitely dropped off from his last year. He's probably not playing with those top guys that he was with for the last like 5+ seasons. But if you guys see anything trade-wise, let me know. That guy signed way too long-term, so I'm not going to touch him at all. I would rather a guy with 1 year left. Hey, there's a Jay LeClaire in Philadelphia. It's Jonah. That's funny. Drafted by the Penguins. Makes me think of John LeClaire. That is kind of funny. There is also goalie options, but once again, we have goalies in the system we could call up if we get into trouble. And who knows, maybe they'll play better in the playoffs. This Isaac Little guy's only 22, just coming off his ELC. Has been scratched all year after 2 years in the AHL. Like, why are they scratching him? He was a 9th overall pick. He's also a power forward like pretty much everybody on our bottom 6, so don't think we really need him, but interesting that they aren't deciding to play him. This guy's a very good overall goaltender, but probably doesn't simulate like one playoff-wise. He is having an incredible season this year, don't get me wrong. His only playoffs he was swept in, and he had a 907. Oof. So, yeah, we don't really need to trade for an elite goaltender, but there is an elite goalie in Tampa on the block, which is kind of cool. Svechnikov, Newhook, Frank Nazar, former players back on the block. He's dropping off a lot. He might retire soon. Just crazy. Kachuk, Paulin, Lejunin. Yeah, I don't really know if there's anything to trade for, but who knows? Maybe you guys will see something that I didn't. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode. So in next episode, we will simulate the rest of the season. We might make some trades, and we'll see how this team finishes off the year. But we should be playoff bound, and hopefully with no concerns for our playoff run. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.